Welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be uncovering some really cool stuff about dinosaurs and other ancient creatures, so get ready for some twists and turns. Because honestly, the past is full of surprises. We're talking T-Rex family trees. And even a fish that seems like it decided to go back to the water.
Yeah, it seems like every time we find a new fossil, it just adds a whole new layer to this crazy story of evolution. And today's deep dive is no exception. We'll be looking at some unique adaptations, like how T-Rex had that powerful bite, and the pretty surprising evolutionary journey of penguins.
Okay, so first up, we're tackling the king, Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now, you might think we know everything about this guy. I mean, he's like the celebrity of the dinosaur world. But some recent research has really thrown a wrench into what we thought we knew about T-Rex.
Yeah, some scientists are saying that what we always thought was just one species of T-Rex might actually be three distinct species. They've been looking at the bone structure, especially in the femur and the teeth, and they're seeing some differences across different T-Rex specimens.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me there could have been like multiple types of T-Rexes running around? That like totally changes how I picture the whole scene.
It's a fascinating idea, isn't it? But like with any new scientific claim, there's always some healthy debate. In the paleontological community, some researchers are saying that those variations that we're seeing could just be because of individual differences within a single species, kind of like how humans come in all shapes and sizes.
So it's kind of like a big scientific puzzle, huh?
Yeah.
Where these researchers are trying to like put all the pieces together and figure out, do these differences actually mean separate species?
Right.
Or is it just natural variation within a population?
Exactly. And that's what makes paleontology so exciting. It's like this constant investigation where new discoveries can completely change our understanding and give us a much clearer picture of the past. And even if these new T-Rex species aren't officially confirmed, the whole controversy has sparked some really important conversations and has pushed researchers to look closer at these amazing creatures.
I love that. It reminds us that science is all about exploration and refinement, always trying to get a more accurate picture of the world. And speaking of challenging assumptions, let's talk about a discovery that really flips the script on evolution. We're always taught that fish evolved into four-limbed land animals, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. But what if some of those creatures decided to go back to the water?
Ah, yes. Kikitaniwaki. This fossil discovery is making everyone rethink things, because it seems like evolution isn't always a one-way street. This fish is a close relative of Tiktaalik, which is like the poster child for the evolution from fish to tetrapods. Those first four-limbed vertebrates?
Okay, so Tiktaalik is like the star of the fish out of water story.
Yeah.
But what makes Kikitania so different?
Well, Kikitania has some features that suggest it was better suited for swimming than its land-loving relatives, so it looks like some of those early tetrapods. Instead of adapting more to life on land, actually went back to a more aquatic lifestyle.
Whoa, that's wild. It's like they took one look at life on land and said, the water's better. It's definitely not the straight line we think of with evolution.
Nope. Kikitania reminds us that evolution is all about survival. Sometimes that means trying new environments, and sometimes it means going back to what works best, even if it seems like a step back in time.
It's a great example of how life just finds a way. There's no one set path for evolution. It's all about adapting, even if it means going back to your roots. This reminds me, have you ever wondered just how strong a T-Rex bite was, like compared to other dinosaurs?
Actually, there's been some really interesting research on that. Scientists have created this new model using Bayesian statistics and phylogenetic analysis. It lets them figure out bite force, even if they only have a partial fossil.
So even with like half a skull, they
Yeah.
can tell how hard a dinosaur could chomp down? That's amazing. How does that even work?
It's pretty cool. The model uses evolutionary relationships and muscle attachments to get a pretty accurate estimate of bite strength. And there have been some surprising findings. For example, they found that the Dromaeosaurus, which was a relatively small dinosaur, actually had a more powerful bite than some bigger dinos, like a Concavenator and Corythosaurus.
Wait a minute. A smaller dino with a stronger bite? I guess size isn't everything. So how did the T-Rex measure up?
Well, as you might expect, those advanced tyrannosaurs, like Tarbosaurus and Tyrannosaurus rex, had bites that were way stronger than dinosaurs of similar size. This research really changes our understanding of how dinosaurs interacted with their environment and with each other. Just imagine the power of a T-Rex bite.
No, thanks. I'm good. Speaking of different environments, let's switch gears completely and head to the icy world of Antarctica. You ready to dive into the evolution of penguins?
Penguins might seem a little out of place here, but their story is actually closely connected to some big events in Earth's history, and it starts with a pretty shocking fact. early penguins were huge.
Giant penguins. Okay, you have to tell me more about this.
We're talking about penguins like Kumimanu baisiae and Palydobus klikowski. These guys were almost 2 meters tall and weighed over 100 kilograms. That's taller than most humans.
I can't even picture that. It's crazy to think that those giant penguins, in warm climates no less, are the ancestors of the penguins we see waddling around today. So how did they go from these towering giants to those smaller tuxedo-wearing birds we all know and love?
Well, it's all tied to the movement of the continents and those major changes in Earth's climate. Penguins actually split from their flying bird ancestors not long after the dinosaurs went extinct, and those early penguins thrived in warmer climates. But as the Southern Ocean cooled down and Antarctica started to form, they gradually adapted to colder waters.
So they were already awesome swimmers. When things started to freeze over,
Exactly. And those swimming skills became even more important as their world transformed. The emergence of the Drake Passage, which is that stretch of water between South America and Antarctica, and the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, played a big role in penguin evolution. As the Drake Passage widened, it led to the formation of that powerful current that circles around Antarctica, basically isolating it and making it much colder.
so they're basically stuck in a rapidly changing environment. No wonder they had to adapt.
Right, and those changes favored smaller penguins, who were better suited to the cold. Over millions of years, this led to the evolution of the penguins we see today, perfectly adapted to survive in some of the harshest conditions on the planet.
It's amazing to think about those giant penguins from way back when, swimming in warmer seas. And now their descendants are dealing with blizzards and icy waters. Talk about a family legacy of adaptation.
It really shows you how resilient life can be. Penguins are just like Kikitania. They prove that evolution doesn't always go in one direction. It's about thriving, even if it means dealing with huge changes, or going back to environments your ancestors left behind.
You know, before we move on, there's one more discovery I have to share. It really shows you that prehistoric creatures were sometimes found in the most unexpected places. Imagine this. A group of scientists in Canada are digging around, and they find a whole bunch of dinosaur fossils. But here's the thing. They weren't in some remote, rocky area. They were in a coal mine.
A coal mine? That's pretty strange. Coal usually forms from those old swampy environments, not exactly where you'd expect to find dinosaur bones.
I know, right? That's what makes this discovery so interesting. It tells us that dinosaurs weren't limited to just the habitats we typically imagine. They were really adaptable, and they could thrive in a variety of environments, even some that seem totally surprising to us.
It definitely changes how we think about where we might find fossils, and it opens up some exciting new possibilities for exploration. There could be so many more dinosaur remains hidden in unexpected places.
And it's not just about where they lived, it's about how they lived. This coal mine discovery includes fossils from all kinds of different dinosaur species, which suggests that dinosaurs formed complex communities and ecosystems in these unique habitats. It's like we're uncovering a whole new chapter in the dinosaur story, one that shows us a side of their lives we never knew about.
It's incredible. Every new discovery adds another piece to the puzzle, and we get a more complete picture of life in the past.
You know, there's one last surprise I want to share before we wrap up this part of our deep dive. You ready for this one? A remarkably well-preserved mammoth calf was discovered in the Yukon Territory of Canada. They nicknamed this little mammoth Nunchoga, which means big baby animal in the Han language. And it has given us a ton of information about these magnificent creatures.
Oh yeah. Nunchoga is a truly remarkable find. The level of preservation is unbelievable. You can see details like its toenails, skin, hair, even its internal organs.
It's like looking straight into the Ice Age. And speaking of the Ice Age, this discovery has made people think more about the possibility of bringing extinct creatures like the woolly mammoth back to life.
There are actually some ongoing efforts to use advanced genetic techniques to resurrect the mammoth. Some companies are even getting a lot of funding for this kind of research. Imagine woolly mammoths walking the earth again. It's both exciting and a little scary.
It definitely raises a lot of questions. But for now, let's just appreciate what an incredible window into the past Nunchoga is. What an amazing glimpse into the lives of these creatures that once roamed our planet. And with that thought, we'll wrap up part 1 of our deep dive.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll continue to explore the world of paleontological discoveries and what they tell us about the incredible history of life on Earth. Welcome back to our deep dive into the prehistoric world. We were just talking about bringing extinct creatures back to life, like the woolly mammoth It's a really cool idea, but also brings up some big questions about ethics and ecology.
For sure. It's definitely exciting to think about seeing a mammoth in real life, but we also have to think about what could happen if we bring back a species that's been gone for thousands of years.
You got it.
Yeah.
How would mammoths affect the ecosystems we have now? Could they even survive in today's environment? It's a lot different than the world they used to live in. These are questions we got to think about really carefully before we do something that could have huge consequences.
It's kind of like we'd be opening up a Pandora's box of ecological stuff we don't even know about. We need to be super careful
Yeah.
and make sure we're not causing more problems than we're solving.
Right. And there's another thing. Some people think that all this effort to bring back extinct species could take away resources and attention from trying to save the species that are going extinct right now.
That's a good point. We can't forget about the species that are in danger today.
It's all about balance. We have to be aware of the past and the present as we make decisions about the future of our planet. Speaking of the past, let's talk about another group of creatures with a long history.
Dogs. Oh, yeah. The story of how dogs became our furry friends is super interesting. And there's some new research that's changing how we think about it.
Yeah, new genetic studies have shown that it's not as simple as we thought. It looks like two different wolf populations contributed DNA to modern dogs.
Whoa, really? So it wasn't just one group of wolves
Yeah.
that became our canine pals.
It seems that way. Dogs from different parts of the world have different genetic lineages. Like dogs from Europe, Siberia, East Asia, and the Americas. They all seem to share a common ancestor from Asia. This suggests that dogs might have been domesticated in the East.
So maybe different groups of humans in different parts of the world started domesticating wolves separately.
That's one possibility. Another idea is that dogs were only domesticated once, but then later they interbred with wild wolves in different regions. That would explain why dogs today have such diverse genes.
So kind of a mixed family tree. It makes you wonder about those early encounters between dogs and wolves. Were they all friendly? Or was there some drama?
It's fun to imagine, isn't it? This research shows just how complicated things were. Back then, domestication, natural selection, and even human migration patterns all played a part in the evolution of dogs.
It's a good reminder that the history of life on Earth is full of unexpected connections. And speaking of unexpected connections, I have another prehistoric mystery for you. This one takes us back to the time of the dinosaurs.
Okay, I'm listening. What did you find?
Okay, so picture this. A team of scientists in Canada are excavating a site, and they find a whole bunch of dinosaur fossils. But get this, they weren't out in the wilderness. They found them in a coal mine.
A coal mine. That's a weird place to find dinosaurs. Coal usually comes from old swamps. Not exactly where you'd think to look for dinosaur bones.
I know, right? But that's what makes this discovery so cool. It tells us that dinosaurs were more adaptable than we thought. They could live in all sorts of environments, not just the ones we usually imagine.
It definitely makes us rethink where we might find dinosaur fossils. And it opens up a lot of new possibilities. Who knows how many dinosaur remains are hiding in unexpected places?
And it's not just about where they lived, it's also about how they lived. This coal mine had fossils from a bunch of different dinosaur species, which suggests that dinosaurs formed complex communities in these weird habitats.
It's like we're getting a whole new perspective on the dinosaur world. We're seeing a side of their lives that we never knew about. It reminds us that there's still so much we don't know about these amazing creatures and the places they lived.
Absolutely. Every new discovery makes the story of prehistoric life even more complex and interesting. It makes you wonder what else is out there waiting to be found.
You got it. The fossil record is huge. And it's full of stories waiting to be told. It shows just how incredible and resilient life on Earth has been throughout history.
Very well said. I think it's time for a quick break. When we come back, we'll share some final thoughts about these discoveries and what they mean for our understanding of the prehistoric world. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. As we wrap up our exploration of these prehistoric discoveries, I'm noticing a theme here.
Oh, yeah. What's it?
Adaptation, like every creature we've talked about, from those penguins in the Antarctic to the dinosaurs hanging out in the coal swamp, they've all shown us how adaptable life can be.
Absolutely. It's like evolution is constantly shaping life to fit in wherever it is we see it in the physical stuff, of course, like how penguins have those streamlined bodies for climbing or how T-Rex had those crazy strong jaws for hunting.
And it's not just about how they look, it's how they act, too. Like, think about dogs. Wolves changed not just physically, but how they behaved because of their interactions with humans. And that's how we got all the different dog breeds we have today.
Yeah, adaptation works on so many levels. It's like it shapes how living things look and how they function over time. And as we learn more from fossils and piece together the history of life, it's amazing to see how powerful adaptation has been in creating all the different kinds of life on our planet.
It's pretty inspiring when you think about how life has kept going for millions of years,
Uh,
facing all these challenges, adapting to crazy environments, and it never stops evolving.
yeah.
It makes me feel optimistic, especially now when we're dealing with so many environmental problems.
I get that, if those ancient creatures could survive crazy climate changes, volcanoes erupting, and even asteroid impacts, it gives us hope that life can be pretty resilient.
It reminds us that we're all part of this huge evolutionary story, and it's still going on. Learning about the past can teach us so much about where we are now and where we're headed.
Studying paleontology isn't just about digging up bones and putting skeletons together. It's about understanding this big story of life on Earth, the good times, the hard times, the species that disappeared, and the amazing adaptations that allowed life to keep going through it all.
That's a great way to put it. So that wraps up our deep dive into the prehistoric world. We started with the T-Rex family, maybe getting a bit bigger. Then we went to Antarctica with those giant penguins.
We talked about Kikitania and how adaptable it was, and we'd even dug into the history of how dogs became our buddies.
And who could forget those dinosaurs in the coal mine, reminding us that we still have so much to learn about the ancient past.
I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive and that it's made you a little more curious about the history of life on Earth. There are so many mysteries still hidden in the fossil record.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep being amazed by the incredible diversity and resilience of life throughout history. Until next time, happy digging.